Hello and welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham Blog and to another Tottenham transfer roundup as Tottenham prepare for their first Premier League game since their COVID outbreak, with us now expected to play against Leicester on Thursday evening. The rumour mill, as always, is in full flow, and this is your one-stop shop to be brought up to date on all of those rumours and more as we look at Tottenham's TV picks for February and also the Europa League draw that is still at the moment in a little bit of doubt. Before we do get into that, I just want to mention something very quickly, which a lot of you may or may not be aware of at the moment, and it's a good friend of ours from the Tottenham Hotspur YouTube community, Bobspur TV. Bobby has been taken ill and is currently in intensive care in hospital after testing positive for COVID-19. So the first thing we want to say from me, and I'm sure from everybody watching, is we wish the very best to Bobby, and we're all with him. We're all standing beside him in this fight, so we wish him a speedy recovery on that one. But we'll get straight into the transfer news because there's quite a bit to talk about, as always. And Matt Law of the Daily Telegraph has said that Antonio Conte is set to meet with the Tottenham hierarchy in the coming days to discuss transfer plans and transfer targets. Now, Conte has said quite a bit throughout his time at Tottenham so far. When asked by the media in his press conferences, he said that, well, he hasn't yet discussed transfer policy with Tottenham, and he's kind of sticking to that and saying that it hasn't happened yet. It's going to happen in the next couple of days, and I'm sure there's so much that they will be talking about. Centre-back transfer targets, one that I know a lot of people are very interested in and wanting Tottenham to move on very quickly, but there are other news with the likes of Adama Traore, Dusan Vlahovic, and of course some potential departures. And the first one of those potential departures is Dele Alli, and we've heard quite a bit in the last couple of days that Dele Alli has been given the green light to leave Tottenham Hotspur, and we bring you those stories exactly. And I'm trying to get these up on my phone, but they're not quite working, so I'll have to bring them up here. Mike McGrath has said that Dele Alli has been given the green light to leave Tottenham in January. Spurs chairman Daniel Levy would ideally want a transfer fee for the midfielder to leave on a permanent transfer, but a loan, possibly with an obligation or option at the end, could be negotiated. And I actually said this on our transfer stream last Wednesday with regard to the future of Dele Alli. Wanting him to leave and teams being interested in him leaving is one thing, but given the fact that his contract runs until 2024 and he's not playing consistent football at the moment, you'd have to imagine there'd be quite a big gap in the valuation Tottenham have of the player and the price that other teams may be willing to pay. Look, we could have got a lot more money for him in recent years. There's no doubt about that. But it is looking increasingly likely that Dele Alli will be allowed to move on from Tottenham this January. David Ornstein, another reliable transfer source, has also said Tottenham have decided to let Dele Alli leave in January, probably on loan. Daniel Levy refused in the past amid PSG interest, but stance has changed and the 25-year-old needs regular game time. Tottenham contract until 2024 and barely playing, so the same story there. A sale is unlikely. Matt Law has said with regards to potential destinations for Dele Alli that there is thought to be some interest from Germany. Now, he didn't name any clubs in particular, but I would imagine the teams kind of just below Bayern Munich, kind of in that top 4 fight. I'm talking Borussia Dortmund, RB Leipzig, who I know have had a difficult start to the season, have sacked manager Jesse Marsch, but will be expected to get back in that top 4 race in the likes of Eintracht Frankfurt and maybe Wolfsburg as well. Could be interested, but Matt Law not naming any teams from there. Fabrizio Romano also said today that Dele Alli does have chances to leave Tottenham in January, and Dan Kilpatrick is saying that Spurs are not expecting their valuation of the midfielder to be met given his lack of football in the last 18 months, making a loan move more likely. And Sami Mokbel of the Daily Mail, a very, very reliable source when it comes to Tottenham, I will always reiterate that, has said the opportunity to join a new club in 2022 would be welcomed by Dele Alli, who wants to play regular football. And it's unfortunate it's coming to this end, but looking back over the last 12, 18, 24 months, perhaps this is the destination we were always going to reach, and it was just a bit delayed with various managers coming in trying to get the best out of the player. But Antonio Conte seems resigned to the fact that Dele Alli will not become the player that he thought he would at Tottenham Hotspur, and a move away to refresh his career is perhaps the best for him. Look, as someone who fell in love with the team back when Dele Alli was one of our focal points, one of the best players in there with Eriksen, with Son, with Kane, it'll be very disappointing to see him go. For 2-3 years, he was one of the best, if not the best, attacking midfielder in the Premier League. You know, in that 16-17 season, he bagged 20 goals in the league, I think 18 assists as well. A truly remarkable player back then, but things have changed for whatever reason, and it looks like he will be moving on this January. Another player who may be leaving is Steven Bergwijn. Fabrizio Romano has said that Ajax and other clubs are interested in bringing Steven Bergwijn to their club in January. There's not a great feeling between Steven Bergwijn and Antonio Conte, so he, like Dele Alli, has chances to leave in January. ESPN running a similar story saying the relationship between Steven Bergwijn and Antonio Conte is strained. The Spurs manager is unconvinced about him. Ajax are now exploring a loan or permanent move in January. So Ajax at the moment the most likely destination for Steven Bergwijn if he is to leave Tottenham. A move that I'm sure will go down a bit badly and with a lot of unpopularity in the other big club in Holland, in PSV Eindhoven, who we of course bought Steven Bergwijn from nearly 2 years ago at this stage when Jose Mourinho first came in. Another player that Tottenham are being linked with again is Adama Traore, and it's Matt Law who has said that Adama remains on the radar of Tottenham. And again, in this instance, like it was last summer, like it was every other time we've been linked to Adama Traore, it really is splitting the opinion among the Tottenham fan base. He's an incredible player in every aspect of his game until he gets to the final product, and that for me is my biggest kind of put off in terms of maybe bringing him in. He's so good on the ball. He can run past players as if they're not even there. He can really transition games from defence to attack, but his end product just isn't there. He had, I think, 4 goals and assists in 37 appearances in the league last season. He really can do everything except put the ball in a dangerous area or in the back of the net. And I think at the moment when we're just looking to win games, whether the performances are good or bad, we want to win games by 1 goal, by 2, by 3, by 4, whatever it is. I think someone like Adama Traore who is looking to improve that aspect of his game for quite a while and just hasn't really been able to. I'm not sure if that is the best way for Spurs to go in this window. But I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about that in the next couple of weeks as we await for that window to open. Dusan Vlahovic, again, a name that we're constantly being linked to. Fabrizio Romano has reiterated that Tottenham are still interested in Dusan Vlahovic. There had been some talk in the last couple of weeks that Tottenham had kind of faded away in the race for the Serbian striker, with bigger clubs looking more likely to match that big fee that Fiorentina are demanding, close to £17 million. Now again, there is talk that could reduce to about 40 million by the time next summer rolls around, with Vlahovic going into the final year of his contract. But Romano reiterating Tottenham are still interested. Gazzetta dello Sport has said that Antonio Conte has put Vlahovic's name at the top of his list since the first minutes of his arrival at Tottenham. So a player that we were interested in before Conte came in. Conte came in and said this is our number 1 target according to Gazzetta dello Sport. And former Fiorentina player Lorenzo Amoruso has said City and Tottenham are the only 2 who can take Vlahovic now. If this continues, the auction will go off anyway in the summer, as the English team have no problem offering insane figures. So Amoruso, I'm sure, doesn't have much of an insight into Tottenham's finances, maybe knows a bit from the Fiorentina side, but he is saying that Tottenham, along with Manchester City, have no problem offering these insane figures. Look, I've spoken quite a bit about my feelings on Vlahovic. He's a player I'd love to bring in. He scores goals for fun, but if 70 million is the price that we're looking at for that, I'd rather a player who's proven in the Premier League, and maybe proven a bit more on the continent if we are going to go down that route, because Vlahovic really only season and a half into being at the top of his game in this area. I'd love to have him, but for that fee, there are just better options out there, in my opinion. I know a lot of people have very differing opinions on that. With regards to centre-backs, Andreas Christensen is a name that has been mentioned again. In the last couple of days, Calcio Mercato have said that Antonio Conte has identified Danish defender Andreas Christensen as the ideal profile to strengthen his defence. The assault is ready to start, I assume, or assault and trying to make that move happen. A real threat to Juventus and Milan, who would also put their eyes on the centre-back. So Calcio Mercato perhaps saying that Tottenham could actually be ahead of Juventus and AC Milan in their pursuit of the Chelsea centre-back. Mercato also mentioned a second centre-back, just to briefly say Tottenham Hotspur have rejoined the race to sign Fiorentina centre-back Nikola Milenkovic and are eyeing a move in January. This just feels like another one of those links that is just always there, so perhaps these links coming up at the moment, it could slightly be lazy journalism, but of course, we're Tottenham Hotspur, as always, there could be a little bit more to it. The Daily Star also mentioning Christensen, say Tottenham are interested in signing him, and I put Christensen in the very same bracket that I put Antonio Rudiger on our stream last Wednesday. It's a centre-back that I'm sure Tottenham have an interest in. He's one whose contract at Chelsea isn't entirely decided at the moment. I think they're both coming into the last 6 months of their deal, but both negotiating for new contracts as well. I see a lot of people saying they're settled in London, so Tottenham could be a better option than, in this case, Juventus and Milan, in Rudiger's case, Barcelona. But they won the Champions League last year. They're fighting for the Premier League title this year. I don't think Tottenham is anywhere near their list of priorities with the way we are at the moment. Now, of course, if things change this season, you never know. But the likelihood of that changing enough to convince players who are proven winners and who are consistent winners right now in their career, I think we should start looking perhaps at other centre-back targets there. A few other smaller stories to mention. Anthony Martial is set to leave Manchester United next month after his agent told Sky Sports News that he is looking for a way out. Tottenham have been linked to the player quite a bit, both during his time at Monaco and during his time at Manchester United, but Fabrizio Romano has said that at the moment Tottenham are saying there is nothing going on with Anthony Martial. Fabio Santini, via Sport Witness, has said that Antonio Conte is crazy about Lorenzo Insigne and would like the player as early as January. Insigne is flattered by interest from both Conte and Spurs. So Insigne, a very important part of Italy's team that went on to win the Euro 2020 during the summer. Tottenham are interested. Conte wants him. Insigne is flattered. Not the most reliable source. Again, a name that has been mentioned in the past, but one to keep an eye on there. And finally, we mentioned Rudiger a second ago. Fabrizio Romano mentioned him today as well, and he said that Tottenham definitively are not in the race to sign Chelsea defender Antonio Rudiger. Not one that comes as much of a surprise to me at all. Definitely other more realistic centre-back targets out there for us. The latest on the Tottenham COVID outbreak is, according to various sources, almost taken as fact. Tottenham returned to training on Sunday and are now planning for Thursday's game against Leicester to go ahead. The club, however, have recorded one further positive test in the first team since resuming on-site training. There's also a fresh outbreak in the under-23 squad who were sent home on Sunday following the return of the first team training. With regards to the player who are now at training, 2 players who had initially tested positive have returned with a depleted squad, and we can work out who those are, but we're not going to I don't think it's fair really to talk about the players who do or don't have COVID, but the first 2 who tested positive are now back in training with the depleted squad. The Telegraph has said, with regards to the size of that squad, that Antonio Conte is facing the prospect of having only 13 players available versus Leicester on Thursday, which is a game that I think we would have been eyeing as one to maybe get a result, with the Leicester struggling both domestically and in Europe. They've dropped, of course, down to the Europa Conference League and are on quite a poor run in the league, with the exception of that impressive win against Newcastle last time out. But only 13 players available could be a bit of a problem for Conte. The Evening Standard have said that Tottenham's COVID-19 situation is now looking more promising. Parts of Hotspur Way have now been reopened, with Conte taking a, quote, skeleton squad for training sessions on Sunday, Monday and Tuesday. Looking ahead to our game on Sunday, the Liverpool Echo are saying that Liverpool's trip to Tottenham on Sunday is looking more likely to go ahead following the COVID outbreak at the North London club. And the overall reaction to this from the Premier League, so we look at Leicester had a few positive cases in the last couple of weeks. Aston Villa have recorded positive cases, and now Manchester United have closed their training ground and postponed tonight's Premier League game against Brentford after they recorded at least 4 positive cases in the first team. Looking down through the leagues in England, QPR's game against Stoke last night was also called off, with the London side recording positive cases in there. And Simon Stone of the BBC has now said that the Premier League has agreed measures that mean players and staff of clubs must take lateral flow tests every day before getting access to training grounds, in addition to PCR tests twice a week. And look, the cases in the Premier League, not just at Tottenham, are the highest they've ever been, with the Premier League announcing there were 42 positive cases recorded in the last week, which is the highest figure of that nature since the data started being released last May. So things are not looking good for the Premier League in terms of COVID. In terms of a potential break in the league, the main argument at the moment seems to be, with the Qatar World Cup going ahead next December, we really just can't afford for this season to be extended, because we can't really delay the next season. Not a very solid argument, if you ask me, but I think the fact that it's being taken seriously with the vast nature of these outbreaks, that games are being called off, no risks are being taken. I think that's the best way to approach this, take it a case by case basis. If there's cases in a team, call off their games. There's no point in taking these risks. But with regards to an overall stoppage of the Premier League, I'm not sure that is something that will be taken into consideration just yet. But with new guidelines coming out in the United Kingdom, whatever may happen, that could of course change very, very quickly. Another aspect of Tottenham's time that could change very quickly is, of course, our Europa Conference League situation. Since we last streamed last Wednesday, Tottenham did announce last Wednesday that the Europa Conference League final group stage game against Stade Rennais would not be played, and that night Rennes released a statement saying that UEFA didn't postpone the game officially, so they were still planning to play this one 24 hours ahead. UEFA then came out on Thursday morning and officially postponed the game, as Tottenham did not have 13 players to feature in that one, 13 including a goalkeeper. Rennes then released another bizarre statement, essentially just saying they were angry and it was ridiculous and this and that and the other, and just throwing their toys out of their pram because they wanted to play their final game of the group stage, despite the fact that they'd already qualified in first place regardless of the result. Definitely a strange reaction from the French club, who went on to actually lose at the weekend at home to Nice by 2 goals to 1, which I quite enjoyed. Now, a few days after this debacle, UEFA released a statement saying that the two clubs could not agree a date for the game to be rescheduled, and the fixture will be referred to the disciplinary board, or some board anyway, to decide the result of the game. It looks as though Rennes refused to reschedule it, expecting to get the victory in this one because it was Tottenham who needed that game postponed in the first place. Rennes, along with the rest of the French league, are taking their Christmas break starting on the 22nd of December, which is 8 days from today. And the group stage game has to be played before the 31st of December. So they were, I think, just trying to be awkward to get 3 points for that one. Following Vitesse's 3-1 victory against Mora on the last day of the group stage, if Tottenham do not win this game, they're out of the competition. A win by any margin would send us through to the playoff round before getting to the knockout stage, but anything less would see us out of the competition. I'm sure we all have our differing opinions on whether or not that's a good thing. If we do get through to the next round, whether we're handed the result or if we do play that game and beat Rennes, we will face Rapid Vienna in the playoff round of the Europa Conference League. And our thoughts go out to HG of the Cheese Room podcast on that one. If we don't get through, he of course lives in Vienna. I was looking forward to a tie like that if we do get through. But if we don't, Vitesse will take our place in that one. Interesting one here at Rapid Vienna. Defender Martin Moorman has said, "I'm a Tottenham fan. I really am. I would definitely have liked it, but not right away in the first round." So a Spurs supporter amongst the Rapid Vienna ranks, perhaps wanting to avoid that game in the playoff round and get us a little bit later in the competition. But they may, as I said, get us in this round of the competition, because the Sun have said that Spurs could survive in the Conference League, as UEFA's control body could change the rules to allow the match versus Rennes to be played after the December 31st deadline. Rennes also could be punished if they were not flexible enough in rescheduling, which I really wouldn't be surprised to see that one go down that way, because look, Tottenham, out of their control, had to have this game called off because we didn't have enough players. There was a COVID outbreak for safety reasons, and simply down to the fact that we couldn't field a full squad. I think was the right decision to get this one called off. But Rennes causing a bit of problems, and it may cost them this game. Again, they're already through to the next round, to the knockout stages, last 16, finishing top of the group, but causing a little bit of problems there. Look, do let me know in the live chat your feelings on all these situations, your feelings on the players that you may want to see brought into Spurs in the coming January transfer window, and players that you want to see go out. Do you think Dele Alli will leave? And if so, do you think it'll be to another Premier League club, or will he be on his way to the continent? If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please do so. We'll be doing much more of these streams throughout the month of January. Also, instant match reactions coming back for most of our league games. I say most because I may be working for some of them. Our league games, European games for the foreseeable future. So please do hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Do make sure to like this stream as well if you have enjoyed it. We've got 80 people in the live chat and only 22 have hit that like button.